a client come to me because she was struggling to lose weight. And I want to share the example of her story because I feel like it's a common one that a lot of women can relate to. When she came to me, she was already doing all the right things. She was already working out consistently. She was already eating in a caloric deficit and tracking her macros. And she had already gone through menopause. She went through menopause a few years ago. And she said prior to menopause, she would do this and she would lose weight. So she knew what she was doing and she knew that this would work for her. But having since gone through menopause, now she said she was doing the same things that used to work for her and they were no longer working. So she came to me and she's like, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So we ran a Dutch hormone test. And the beauty of the Dutch hormone test is that it lets me zero in on a lot of the root causes that can be blocking you from losing weight. Now, here's the thing. A lot of times when we as women want to lose weight, that's our main priority, right? We might have other things like good health or better sleep or, good libido, but usually weight loss, if a woman wants to lose weight, it's usually like her number one thing that she wants. And it's kind of how she measures herself if she's getting results or not. I want to shift how you think about that because even though weight loss might be your main priority, it's not actually the ultimate problem happening in your body. It's more of an effect than a cause. It's more of a side effect of something else being off in your body, especially if you are eating right, working out, doing all the things, and you're still not able to lose weight. It's a sign of something else, usually more than one thing, being off, right? There's other root causes that are blocking you from being able to burn fat and lose weight. And so we just need to investigate and find out what those root causes are. And I think that's why sometimes weight loss is a whole lot more complicated than just, work out more and eat less, which is so frustrating because a lot of women are already doing that and they're not getting the results that they want because there's underlying things that are blocking them and they're actually other underlying health issues that are blocking them. I used to call them just barriers to weight loss, but honestly, they're barriers to health, and not being able to lose weight is a side effect of those things. So my job is to go in and identify what those are. So we ran a Dutch test with this client and I identified 5 things that were blocking her from losing weight that are separate from diet and exercise. So let me run through what those 5 things are because this was extremely illuminating to her and it made her feel like, wow, I'm not crazy and wow, there's nothing actually wrong with me. I just have some things that are out of balance and when we fix these, weight loss can happen. All right, so what are the 5? The first one was high cortisol. Her cortisol was sky high. Now, cortisol is your stress hormone. So if you have sky high levels of cortisol, your body is going to be in survival mode. And when we are in survival mode, the body's not interested in losing weight. It's interested in surviving, right? That your body's main goal in this life is to survive, right? And so if you think about our primal ancestors back in the day, when they were in survival mode, they didn't have easy access to food like we do now, most of us in this day and age, right? They didn't have grocery stores and drive-thrus and, you couldn't just pull up and have a whole abundance of food. You had to hunt and gather and, you could go days or longer without food, right? This was normal. So how did human beings survive? Well, we have the ability to store fat. So anytime our body was going through, any type of survival situation, we were storing fat and it was conducive to our survival to be able to store that fat, right? Well, your metabolism and your body still work the same way today. We have modern technology, but our bodies are still very primal. So if your body thinks that it's in survival mode, it's going to be storing fat. Regardless of whether you're in imminent danger or not, if your nervous system interprets and your brain interprets that something is a threat and it's ongoing, you're going to be in survival mode and it's going to tell your body to store fat. Especially with cortisol, high levels of cortisol get stored right in the belly. So if you got a lot of belly fat, could be high levels of cortisol. So she was dealing with high levels of cortisol. Not only that, cortisol is also inflammatory. It's an extremely inflammatory state to be in when you have high levels of cortisol ongoing. So it's not conducive to rest, digestion, repair, making sex hormones. It's really only about like survival in that moment. You can't survive and thrive at the same time. They're kind of like 2 different pathways for your body to take. You're either thriving or you're surviving. You're not really doing both at the same time. So bringing her levels of cortisol down are going to be absolutely key for her to be able to lose weight. Also, she said she was sleeping fine, but I sort of knew that she really wasn't getting deep restorative sleep because when you have high levels of cortisol, it impairs your sleep, right? And you need sleep to be able to repair and digest and do all of that. Two, the other reason I knew that she wasn't getting restorative sleep, even though she thought she was sleeping okay, is her levels of melatonin were low. Now, melatonin is your sleep hormone. It's made in your pineal gland. It's the thing that your body makes at the end of the day when it starts to get dark, giving your body the signal, okay, we can rest and we can go to sleep. Melatonin also regulates a lot of other things in your body. It's going to help regulate your mitochondria, your metabolism, your nighttime fat burning. And it's also a very powerful antioxidant. So if you have low levels of melatonin and her levels were really low, you're not going to have that anti-inflammatory protective effect, and you're not going to have that nighttime fat burning effect or good sleep so your body can rest and repair in general. So needing to bring her levels of melatonin back up. Now, she also had an estrogen dominance. So let me explain how hormones work in the body. So basically, the two main female sex hormones are estrogen and progesterone. So of course, the Dutch test measures the levels of those, but we also look at the ratio of one to the other because they need to be balanced. It's not just how much estrogen you have or how much progesterone you have. They're supposed to balance each other. Everything in the body is kind of like a system of checks and balances. That's kind of basically how the body works. We have cycles and we have things that balance each other. So her levels were lower, which I expected because she had already gone through menopause, and they were normal, right? Like normal doesn't necessarily mean ideal, but they were in the normal range for someone who had gone through menopause. But her progesterone was significantly lower than her estrogen. So even though both were low, progesterone was lower, meaning estrogen was dominating over progesterone. So she had an estrogen dominance. It's very hard to lose weight when you have an estrogen dominance. That basically tells your body to gain weight, to store weight. It's also a more inflammatory state to be in. It also makes it harder for things like, progesterone is important for like calm and sleep and feeling relaxed and, feeling good. And when we don't have enough progesterone, it makes our mood like, more prone to anxiety and irritability and things like that. So we just don't feel right when we don't have enough progesterone. So even though her levels of hormones were low, her progesterone was lower than her estrogen. Her estrogen was dominating. So that was another problem that was blocking her from losing weight. And in addition to that, she had poor estrogen metabolism. So here's the thing. Every single day we make hormones, they do their job, and then they get metabolized and excreted out. Kind of just like food. You eat food, you absorb the nutrients, and then you excrete it out when you go to the bathroom, right? Same deal with hormones. Our hormones get made, they do their job, and then they have to get metabolized and excreted when we go to the bathroom through the intestines just the same way. So there's a 3-step process here. And the example that I like to use, because I like simple analogies, the example that I like to use is you make dinner, you clean up your kitchen, and you take out the trash. All 3 of those steps have to be happening for everything to be flowing smoothly for your kitchen to be clean, right? So the Dutch test is going to measure your levels, which is, are you making dinner? It's going to measure detox phase 1, which is, are you cleaning up the kitchen? And then there's something called detox phase 2, which is, are you taking out the trash? Now, a lot of times the first 2 will be functioning fine, but that third one, not functioning well. So the Dutch test measures all 3. So when we were looking at it, her levels were okay. She was making dinner. She was cleaning up the kitchen. That was doing okay. Phase 1 was fine. But phase 2 was impaired, so her body wasn't taking out the trash. Now imagine a kitchen where you make dinner, you clean up, and then you can't take out the trash. And then you do the same thing the next day, and the same thing the next day. Your trash is going to start piling up, right? That's going to be a problem. So same thing in the body. If you have impaired detoxification, you might have, your levels of hormones might be fine, but your trash is piling up, right? That's going to be a problem. So that is another barrier to weight loss because that causes sluggishness, a sluggish metabolism you can't eliminate. The other problem too is that when things sit in the intestine for too long, and she was also dealing with constipation, this is a common overlap. When things sit in the intestine sluggishly and they're not getting excreted out like they're supposed to, the body will actually start reabsorbing things, and that includes estrogen. So if you have estrogen, it did its job, goes to the intestines, it's waiting to exit the building, right? But it's not exiting the building. So it's just sitting there, and the body's like, whoa, I'm just going to reabsorb this now. So the body reuptakes that estrogen. Well, now suddenly your estrogen dominance is worse because that estrogen that you were supposed to get rid of is not gone, but your body's already making more. So now you have more of an estrogen dominance, you have a constipation problem, and your metabolism is more sluggish. So another reason that she was having issues losing weight. She also had low glutathione. So glutathione is an antioxidant that's made in the liver, but it also really matters for detoxification and energy burning and your mitochondria, right? Your cellular powerhouses. They're literally what take sugar from your blood and burn it for energy. So if this system is impaired, your metabolism is also going to be impaired and your detoxification system is going to be impaired. And remember, back to the example of taking out the trash. If you can't take out the trash, your metabolism is going to be sluggish. You're going to be getting a buildup, right? It's hard to function well and efficiently in that state. So those were the 5 things that she was dealing with. She had high levels of cortisol. She had an estrogen dominance. She had poor estrogen metabolism, not being able to take out that trash. She had low levels of melatonin and low glutathione. So all of those things were leading to a state of sluggishness in her body, a state of inflammation, a state of her body not being able to function efficiently or be in the right safe, rested state to actually get in and burn that fat and have her metabolism function appropriately. So it didn't really matter how much she was dieting, how much she was exercising, if she was perfect with her macros, if she was picking up a ton of weight and really active. It didn't matter. Her body was not going to be ready to let go of weight in that state. But the beautiful thing is, not only did we identify things that were going on in her health that needed to be fixed, that she's going to feel better once we rebalance those, but once we rebalance those, then her body's going to feel safe and efficient enough to actually be able to let go of the weight. So my message to you is, if you're struggling with losing weight and you've tried diet and exercise and it didn't really work for you, there's nothing wrong with you. There's probably something underlying that's blocking your health and blocking your body's ability to burn fat efficiently. So when we do a test like a Dutch test, we can pinpoint exactly what that is. And when I know what it is, I can give you a personalized care plan to rebalance and fix it naturally. So if you want more details on a Dutch test, DM me. I'll put a link below. You can click on that, check it out. I've never had a woman do it that said it wasn't worth it. You get amazing information from these Dutch tests.